I got a famous guy here with me that everybody knows you in Chattanooga. You know, they see you. Is that half off?
Half beard, yeah.
Jim Crittenden. We'd love to have people like you on this program. A lot of people see you, Jim. I know I've been knowing you for years. They don't really know a lot about you, except you're in the eyeglass business, and you've been doing that 50 years, haven't you?
It's been nice to me, too.
Yeah.
Been good.
Well, tell us a little bit about where you're from, your background, and tell us about when you was involved with the Lookouts and your family and so forth.
It's interesting. We born in middle 30s. How's that? 35. And I was born in Riceville, Tennessee. And we must have moved every time the rent came due. Came to Chattanooga when I was 7-year-old in an apartment down on South Broad Street. My dad worked in a hosier mill. Mother worked there as well. And we lived in a little one-room apartment about 2200 South Broad. Then we went to a farm out on Shalford Road, there by the bridge, where the bridge is, and my dad worked as a dairyman there, $10 a week. So you can imagine there was no money. There was just flat no money at all. And so that must have been, 45? War is just over, or is over, coming in. I went to Bestie Shepherd, really out on Tyner Road there. Mm-hmm. And then I moved annually almost. Went to Graysville, worked, stayed there a year or two, didn't work. I guess I did work. Then back to Shalford Road again, same location, similar building. But we had a whole house and had a bathroom. That was big. Bathroom, and then, not an outhouse anymore. There was an outhouse when we first got there, yeah. Owned a Tyner, and Tyner was an interesting little story about Tyner. She's gone now, so I wish she could have been here. And when I was a junior or senior in high school, she came in. First of all, let me tell a little about Miss Stokely. She was in the 10th grade. She was my 10th grade English teacher, and she was a fine person. So and we got up every morning, Curtis, at 3 o'clock to go milk those cows. My job was to take the milk and put it in the strainer and put it in the cooler room and so forth. Miss Stokely I think she was nice to me, knowing that I was right across the road there working, and I was working, And it must have been an interesting smell, mm-hmm. because we're working in a dairy barn, and we're doing baths that came out of a little bath, little hand pan. Wasn't a bath. We didn't have a bath. And anyway, she was very nice to me, but I remember once, as I'd gotten a pretty good nap in her class, and she said, "I'll see you after class." So it scared me to death. So I came up. She said, "Wait till after everybody's gone." She come up and she said, "Did you get your nap out?" I said, "Well," she said, "I saw you sleeping. Let me tell you, don't ever do that again." So she was, that was my beginning with education, I guess. But my other story that I was sharing with you was I had a history teacher, I guess she was. And she said to me one day, she said, "I want you to get out of my class and get on out of this school, because you ain't ever going to amount to nothing."
That was real encouraging, wasn't it?
That was either got to get it and go or whatever. Looking back, that was probably a beginning of helping me. She helped me by throwing me out of school. Mm-hmm. And that's a horrible, horrible feeling. You got nowhere to go. You wake up for school, there's no school.
Well, that was a great thing that teacher did for you, wasn't it?
I never thought of it at the time.
Well, nowadays they'd probably want to put her in jail for saying that to somebody.
Oh, yeah. I was a rowdy boy, no doubt. I guess I just didn't do my work. Didn't know to do. Truth is, and I found out later that education comes hard. If you pay attention, it's not so bad. And I wasn't paying attention, probably, So that from there, I went into the Army. Remember, I got no education coming here because I'm going in working for my uncle Sam. First of all, I went in the Marine Corps, and looking at the things that change your life, I went to Parris Island, Curtis. That had to be the hardest thing I've ever tackled, maybe still, or one of the hardest things. Parris Island was, I remember the DI saying, that's the drill instructor, he was saying, you hear somebody smack their face and be a sand flea. He said, "Let 'em eat, you've eat." That's the beginning of discipline, and I learned discipline.
Made a man out of you,
It
didn't it?
did, and that was the discipline.
Changed your life.
Changed life totally.
How long was you in the Marines?
I was there just 6 or 8 months, and then they told me I was going to Korea with this bunch. This bunch, one of the guys here in town still, they weren't trained. They had Paris Island training, but they had not been to war. Had never been, hadn't spent a lot of time in the Marines. So I said, "What can I do to get out of here?" There's no out, but there was an out. I ran into this guy downtown at the recruitment office. He said, "Yeah, I can get you out. You can join another branch of service for 3 years." So I joined the Army. That took me out of the Marines. So I went back to basic training again. Didn't need it. I've had basic training. So Fort Jackson, the guy, he says to me, this is all a part of building a child's life. He said, I was spitting polish. I'd been in the Marines. And he said, "What do you want to be?" I'd been sitting around there for 2 weeks sick in a little tent. Nothing. They didn't have any place to put me. He said, "How would you like to be a military policeman?" Hey, sounds good to me. So that was my beginning in the Army. And I went from there to Fort Jackson and went on into Camp Augusta in Augusta, Georgia. Camp Gordon, I guess Fort Gordon. And that was a guard on a post, rehabilitation post for soldiers.
You still a military police then?
I was at that point.
Yeah,
I was at that point.
Yeah, carrying a gun.
Oh, yeah.
And that thing on your arm.
Well, there wasn't so much carrying a gun. I'm up in the tower and still trying to get that sleep.
Yeah.
So the old colonel, or I guess he was a captain, he said to me one day, he said, we saw you up there asleep in that tower. Well, they had taught me by now the rules of the lay of the land. You can sleep if you put your chair on top of that lid that's coming up. Remember, I'm a country boy. So guess what? I get to sit there, but when they came up, they caught me. They didn't catch me. So he said, "I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to send your butt to Korea, and you go to sleep there, they'll shoot you." So I learned a lot of hard lessons there quick, And I came along, and I took a job as a delivery boy when I came back out of the Army. I got no trade, you don't. Well, you been a spare parts man? What have you done? What do you do? So I got a job at Hour Optical as delivery boy. And what that mean? That means I would be down on Lindsay Street, walk out Macaulay, back down all the way along Market Street where all the optometrists were, and deliver glasses once an hour, Curtis, all during the day. Come back and clean them up and get them ready to go again. So I got in the optical business by doing that. And then from there I went into stock clerk, and I'd had that in the Army, and some guy offered me a job as manager of a optical laboratory. Now, I didn't know that much about it, but I thought I could. So that guy, Curtis, you'll remember him, was Steve Adams. That led me into, one day we weren't doing good. The times were hard. And I was making $1 an hour, Curtis. And he said to me, "I'll sell you this little store over here on 7th Street. It was just a little hole in the wall there beside the Home Plate restaurant down. And he said, "I'll sell it to you for $3,000. But with the understanding," I think it was $1,000, Curtis. He said, "with the understanding, if you don't make it, you don't have to pay it." Little key there was he was keeping half of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now we got a hungry boy out here that wants to make good and to do good. Once I got into that, got into the optical business, that I had my own little store, and I can't help but mention old Dr. C.L. Lassiter. He was next door, and he came back out of retirement and worked a few months, maybe a few years, and I would get 2 or 3 patients a day, making $2 to $3, $5 maybe a customer. That thing led to one thing, led to another. And then I went out to Rossville. Remember, I'm a merchant, I'm thinking merchant. And the law had been, I'm still walking the edge of the line on the law. They were saying you cannot advertise eyewear. You cannot say it. You cannot put it on your window. You can't put eyeglasses on the window. You can't put a frame in the window. And you can't put a frame with a light on it. And somewhere along the line, I went out to Rossville. And that was Tennessee. Now, Tennessee law covered that. Tennessee law said you could not advertise, you couldn't do anything. And they would come and get you. I mean, they did not want you to advertise glasses. Well, what they were doing, Curtis, they were controlling business.
Yeah.
And those few, and we had one here in town, that was controlling the optical business here in Chattanooga. They said, I had my little office, and I went in to get a license, and they control the licensing board. Interesting story. They said, you can't take the test. I said, well, I'm going to practice anyway.
In Rossville?
I'm back in Chattanooga now.
Okay.
I got one in the Hamilton Bank. I said, I'm going to practice anyway. I kind of had an ace on them. My wife, at the time, Susie, had a license already, and she was home having babies. That's those girls.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm going to practice anyway. They had a meeting in Nashville, and I said, he said, well, let's hold a minute. Just hold it just a minute. We'll be back in a minute. So they went out and had a little meeting, come back in and said, we're going to let you take the test. Of course, I passed the test. And that's how I really got into the optical business in Tennessee. Georgia was a different thing. Georgia didn't have a license at that time. So let me rephrase that. You could advertise eyewear in Georgia. Remember, I'm walking the edge of the line here always.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on the corner of Chickamauga Avenue, right next door to the post office. Remember those commercials?
Yeah.
I use that right next door to the post office. So when we come along to advertise eyewear, I did just that. And they didn't like that. Tennessee didn't like it. And lo and behold, a local station here, WDEF, agreed to run my commercials because, you see, it covered Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
So I could not say the name in Tennessee, but I could say it in Georgia. So I went back and got that name, Eyear Optical. And that's something that had developed, we'd talked about some years back, Steve and I. And it's so catchy, Eyear Optical.
Yeah.
It's eyeglasses, yeah. So that's how that all came about. Went to Rossville, rented a little building for $1,500. Curtis, and lo and behold, that thing just caught on fire. Those people wasn't on fire. The people came out there. They came to get the glasses, and I was selling them $29 a pair. $29 a pair. I still sell some. I think we do for that lower price. Interesting, in the sense that those glasses. I had an old ophthalmologist that went out there. You had to have a doctor to check eyes, so I had an old ophthalmologist. He smacked his lips. It looked like white chalk on it. I think he must have been doing some form of medication. But he came there and worked with me. And like I say, we started on just a little place on the corner there. Started out upstairs for $150 a month. And just right in the same, near the corner. And I got that corner, man, I thought I'd died and gone on. Right next door to the post office. That was an ingoing thing then.
Yeah, and when you turn, you had to see it, didn't you?
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
And it's very obvious here in Rossville you got to see it.
Is it still there?
Still, the building's still there, but it's not.
Okay.
The store's long gone. Yeah.
How many buildings you have in Chattanooga? How many offices?
I think there's 6 now in this area, this market.
Now you've got some out of town too, have you?
Yeah, we got some in Fort Overthorpe. We got some in Cleveland, some in Athens, Brainerd Road. Spring Creek Road. There's one. Then, of course, we got the big one on Shallowford Road, which is and most of the time I would try to buy the building, Curtis. A lot of the time, and had the big one across from Northgate. That was a big optical, a warehouse like OK Tire or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember. We changed it and got it zoned, or I guess it was commercial already, and made after the Eyear. Remember, I've got the Eyear thing going in Rossville, but it's against the law to do it in Tennessee, to advertise in Tennessee. But lo and behold, the federal trade come out legalizing you to be able to advertise. Whoa, man, I'm sitting on go, So so I went out to, I had that one on Rossville, then I went out to put one on across from Northgate, right across the street from Northgate. That worked good too. All those worked good. And what we would try to do is to buy the building. By now I'm getting a few pennies in my pocket and a little credit. So we bought the building and put that one. That was the biggest superstore in Tennessee at the time. I remember it's no longer an optical store, it was a superstore.
Yeah.
And we actually grind the glasses. Now, these later stores, the ones, one on Brainerd Road, Spring Creek Road, one on Shallowford Road, is a big, it's a huge building, and that's owned by those daughters. So you can pretty well maneuver your way around on what your cost is, within reason. So we actually grind. Curtis, we grind the lens, and you don't know this. I don't think you've ever been in to see them do it.
Mm-hmm.
They actually grind that from a blank, just a blank piece of polycarbonate, and they grind the lens right now. And they do it, they can do it in 15, 20 minutes. And it's the most precision cut optical I'd ever seen and have ever seen. So we've come right along with them. We've had employees been there 20, 25 years, 30 years.
Yeah.
And they've gotten the experience of how to do it. And the equipment now, Curtis, is well over $100,000 for that machine.
Oh, yeah.
That cuts it. And that's a country boy that didn't have anything.
Well, I think really what's made you in Chattanooga is your advertising.
Well, advertising was the key.
You got that little nick there,
That was the key.
half off, and that's interesting. Though you turn your face, you mean you've shaved half of it off.
I did shave half
And
off,
on top of that, you're a nice guy too, Jim.
Well, thank you. But that's
You're a
I'm
friendly
working
guy.
on. And I'm working on trying to, we can say this in this station, I think, working on being a Christian, Curtis.
Yeah, well, you've always been that.
Yeah.
Now, all your family's in there, right? Is that boy your son?
Son-in-law.
Son-in-law?
That's Dwayne. Dwayne came right here on Bailey next to Dr. Turner and opened that store.
And you got $2 in the business.
2 daughters. I really had 3 at one point.
But are you still the head milker? You're the boss?
I think I'm called the founder. That means I don't get the checks. They don't split the money like they
Hey,
used
one
to.
of the things, I was down at the newspaper 40 years. That seemed like a long time ago, but great career at the paper with Roy McDonald. But I remember reading about you with baseball.
Yes.
I didn't know you then, but I remember you in baseball. Tell me about that.
Well, that was a little. Remember, I've got a lifetime friend, Arvin Reingold, the attorney.
Yeah.
He's saying we want to get in baseball. They're going to have baseball here. So lo and behold, when they started to bring the Cleveland Indians here, we went down to the city commission to try to get the right to do it. Well, we made a little deal in the outer chambers there to where we would own part of the lookouts, and they would get the read outside. They got the right to bring it in, and I think Arvin and I had 10% each. We had the lookouts. We had a commissioner, and I can't remember, Chuck Bender maybe.
Yeah.
Somebody had helped to bring them back, and it folded maybe in 70, somewhere early 476. It had folded, and the stadium, Curtis said, and I'm sure I must have been by you somewhere there. The stadium had been taken over by pigeons.
Yeah.
And the roof was falling in. It was
Oh, yeah.
it was a sight. Those guys got out there and worked, volunteers, got out there and worked to clean that stadium up, clean that pigeon manure out, and even I think we might have gotten the fire department. Of course, you couldn't say we did that, but they hosed it down, and got it cleaned up a little bit.
Well, you and Arvin Ryan go in partners with bringing the lookouts back.
That's right.
And how long did you do that?
This gets a little sad here, Curtis. Harvey and I have always been friends and we still are close friends, like a brother.
He's a friend of mine.
Like a brother. I mean, he's like a brother. He's that kind of man, and I would say that publicly. He's that kind of man.
Yeah, I know him well.
He's what he says he is, and he's that. We had the lookouts. He and I just had we were just enjoying going to spring training and things like that. And we bypassed where I got into baseball. I got in when I was back out that farm. I'd go get a ride to town, go to Ingle Stadium and sell peanuts, Cokes, and popcorn 10 cents each. We made 1 cent
Mm-hmm.
on each one. Ruby Williams was the person in charge of that. And you stand outside and she'd see you, if you're hungry looking, I guess, you would work, or see you in the stands working. And I would make 75 cents, $1.25 selling peanuts. Remember, this is a good experience for me all along because I'm learning how to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned how to go find the guy up in the corner of the stadium that's always drinking 7-Up.
Mm-hmm.
We got 8 Cokes and 2 7-Ups in each bucket. Well, I'd immediately go up in that corner and get rid of my 7-Up because the guys might have had a little something to put in it.
I got you.
So that worked out pretty good as learning about. But that was my history of starting in baseball. And and I moved me into where I'd be an usher there in Curtis. Made 50 cents there, 50 cents a game. But I hope it don't rain because you won't have a bus ride home, you know. Lived out on Shadowford Road there still. And we'd work at night, go in there at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and do the ball games. You know, that was a good business experience. I can't tell you how good that was to learn.
Who owned it besides you and Rango? Who was in there with you?
That was the Reed family.
The sandwich guy.
Yeah, you would have known him. Yeah,
Yeah, I did.
Salad,
Yeah.
Reed House Salad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was a good man. He done a good job with Reed House Salad. So you know.
Yeah.
Then he had a boy and a wife, and they all were involved there. Ended up, it bellied up, Curtis.
Uh-huh. Wasn't making money.
Well, I wasn't in charge, first of all. You know, I'm going to take credit for bellying it up. Even if I did, I wouldn't say I bellied it up. I don't think I would. It went broke. And what we had done along the way, and this is how I got in baseball. Nobody ever knows this. We had signed a note for $40,000. This is my friend Ryan Gold. Don't forget him now. $40,000 down at that bank it must have been on Cherry Street, Chestnut Street there. United, maybe it turned out to be. And we had a note we collectively had signed. So I went in to sign it. And I said, well, I'll just sign this as vice president. Look out. So I was vice president. Well, Arvin comes in always late.
Mm-hmm.
Arvin's gonna be. I tell him this. He get in his casket. He'll be come run down the road. I'm not in there. But it had turned. He came in and he wanted to sign the note. And he said, "I'll just sign it like Jim did here." Oh, I said, "Oh no. We want you personally. Here's the kicker." Rango struck out vice president, but I'm his lawyer. So I'm signed personally for that note, and Arvin signed for it personally too. But none of them had any money. Rango had money, but I'm the driver. See, I'm sitting up there with no collateral. Got a note, a bland note with nothing, and it's $40,000. $40,000, some money then.
That's
even
a lot
then,
of money.
76, yeah. So might have been 77, somewhere there, and I ended up with a lion's share. The whole long story there. Donnie McKeel got involved, and we went to spring training type thing, going out to Vegas or something. We agreed we would share those stocks, a third, and then Mr. Rango, I think he just had 10%. Mm-hmm. He's got the lion's share with 10%. We ended up with having the ball club, Curtis. All we had was debts. And it turns out the debts by the time we got to spring training was $275,000. Assets were nothing. We had a lease stadium. We had a lease with the baseball team. We're selling them peanuts still for a quarter, I think. I brought my family in it. I had one daughter down there out there dipping ice creams, and we had some of them taking tickets. It was a family thing.
How long did you keep the lookouts alive, though?
I kept it alive. Up to 81.
Did you own it when Bert bought it?
No, I sold it to Harry Lander, it seemed like. And he ended up getting a note or whatever, but it was, to be honest with you, Curtis, I just wanted to get out.
Yeah.
So I took what I had in it out.
Well, tell us about meeting Joe DiMaggio. You was talking about him a while ago.
Yeah, that was an interesting
He was
story.
a star, wasn't he?
Well, oh my soul, yeah. He was like sacred to baseball.
Yeah.
we were in the big hotel in Dallas. When I went to those winter meetings, I would go and I saw him. I saw the stadium. I'm sitting with a guy who owned the Minnesota Twins, Calvin Griffith.
I remember that.
And we're sitting there in a lounge type situation, and lo and behold, the place fell hush. The front door opened, hush. The lobby's full of people, Curtis. It's full of people. And I said, "What is it? What is it?" I'm thinking God must have walked in. And they said, "That's Joe DiMaggio." And they wouldn't talk, Curtis.
Just staring at
in
him.
awe of Joe DiMaggio. About the same thing happened to Gene Autry.
Yeah.
Same year, Gene Autry came in the lobby. I said, "What is it?" And I'm sitting there, and maybe with him or maybe the Finley, who owned the Oakland Athletics. That's a story in itself. But it was Gene Autry walked in, and they all said, "That's Gene Autry." So I got to rub elbows, kind of, with all the people I had admired as a child. Yeah.
Are you 75?
77.
Well, you don't look good. Look at,
In a week.
all them eyeglass business is taking good care of you.
Well, I can see Luther. I can see Curtis.
You still eat with Luther?
Eat with Luther every Tuesday.
And now you've been doing that for years.
Been doing that since we first met him down at Ricky's Restaurant.
Yeah, I used to eat there years ago before I got involved with politics. I was real busy. And I still see you and Luther out at Epicurean there once in a while.
Yeah.
And now Earl Friedberg's joined you, hadn't he?
That's right. Does he
pay for
making
it?
us? He's making us good in public.
Does he pay for his own lunch?
He pays, and with us, you got to pay, brother. Luther pays too. Everybody pays.
Don't have anybody pay.
Ain't no slackers.
I have always admired you, and I, been in the newspaper business, known a lot about advertising. I've always admired your ads. You got that. You got to have that little niche,
I study it, Curtis. I study it nightly, and just to see the things that people are doing.
Yeah. How'd you come up with the purple? That's a good one too.
Oh yeah, that's a winner. That has been a winner.
Yeah.
Now, keeping in mind we were reasonably successful with what we were doing, and I'm walking the streets. We go to each year to the conventions, and that's where we do a lot of buying. Curtis, we meet the distributors, the factory reps, at those conventions. So we're there, and we're walking, and we're also enjoying life, like I did with baseball. The nights out, we go out and have an evening meal, nice meal somewhere, and we're just walking along the street, and all three of the daughters will tell you they did it, and I think I did it. So they're walking along, and I said, "What do you think about that purple color? It's a royal color." Now remember our Bible history, the King David and purple.
Yeah.
And I said, that'd be a good color for us to get. And I don't know whether I said it. I'll give any of them credit. Don't matter. Could have been Peggy, but it was a royal color, Curtis, and it's a subconscious thing. Remember, Bible students would know that David had the purple in his robes and so forth.
Well, maybe God gave you that vision. You've always been a strong believer in God and
no
the church.
Question that God gave me that.
You've always been a great Christian, Jim. Is that correct?
Thank you.
Jim, anything else you'd like to say before you leave? We're just about out of time.
We've run out of time. It is so much to be said.
Past 30 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah, it is fast.